What is going on, guys? Welcome into Nebraska post-game live after the Northern Iowa game, 34-3, the final. A lot to talk about here. Mixed reactions off of this game, right? You have little people concerned about what happened, but I mean, it's hard to be upset with 34-3. We'll talk about some of the good, the bad, the ugly, but first things first, if you're new here, please drop a like, leave a comment. I'm going to drop the link in the comments if y'all want to kind of StreamYard in. You don't have to have a video, just audio is required. So if you want to just patch in here and talk about the game a little bit, I'll drop the link for y'all. But I'll kind of let y'all pile in here. What's going on, LPH? Appreciate you hopping in. 3-0. Yep. Hard to be upset about 3-0. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through the game today. I'm going to break down some things and then also kind of just look a little bit at Illinois and see what they did today, so we can kind of prep for what we're going to see next week. So hopefully clean up a little bit of the issues we had today. But again, hard to be upset with a 34-3 win, especially 34 points in general. We know what we came from last year. I know we're a little spoiled already this year, but let's just hold on to that. All right, so getting into kind of the first half action here. Let's go ahead and just start with kind of Dylan Raiola's start to this game, right? Came out, had 11 straight completions after the incompletion. So I believe he had two incompletions on that one drive, but up until then he was 10 for 11 or 11 for 12. Finished the game 17 for 23 with 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, that late interception, right? So that was just, you kind of like to see them finish with a touchdown there and a stop. However, just the conservative nature of the second half, and the reason why that's a little concerning, of course, is that, the Big Ten is going to be a conference where the teams want to run a power system. They want to control the clock. They want to wear you down, right? So you got to make sure that Nebraska did not win the time possession. I don't know if they were necessarily trying to in this game because it was pretty lopsided, but I'm going to get into those statistics. Never mind me. What's up, man? Not the impressive win I hoped for. Yeah. It depends. It just depends on the way you look at it. Again, a lot of things to clean up, but still, yeah, exactly. I'm not complaining about 3-0. It's one of the games we need to win by 40 plus. I agree. I wish we would have scored more points, but the penalties late. It seemed like it took somewhat of a trajectory of the Colorado game in the second half a little bit, where it seemed to be overly conservative, and the penalties started to mount up there. And I think the biggest frustration point is the fact that holding calls are non-existent for us. I don't know why, but there were some egregious holding calls that appear to be missed left and right. I don't know what's happening. We got one holding call, but again, a couple of questionable calls there. But I'm not going to spend too much time harping on the officiating. That doesn't really help us out much. But let me go ahead and pull up here some of the stats from the game. I'm going to share a screen here. We'll pull up some of the team stats here. So diving into this, Aiden Dunn. So I had a list of my key players before the game, and I'll pull them up here. So Ty Edwards was my number one to look out for, of course, because they use him a lot. He was averaging over 10 yards per carry. This was his stats: 6'4", 230, 30 carries, 315 coming into the season, coming into the game, 2 touchdowns, and had back-to-back 100-yard games. Nebraska held him to a very minimal day, 10 carries for 37 yards, and his long was 9. So his long was his average. Overall, 39 carries for 139 for them. No touchdowns on the ground. Aiden Dunn, 11 carries for 49. He's not a guy who will run a lot, but he will occasionally run, and they used him a lot more than they did overall this season. Here's Aiden Dunn's stats for the season heading into the game: 23 for 42, 54% completion percentage, 215, 5.1 average, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 44% throwing last week against St. Thomas. So he finished today 117, 13 for 25, which is around his average completion percentage, a little bit lower. Shekelman came in later, 3 for 7 with 45 yards. Amari Pasek-Hickson, 11 carries, 39 yards. So those were my top 2. Ty Edwards and Amari Pasek-Hickson were my top 2. Interesting enough, Amari Pasek-Hickson, while he was at Kansas and was a running back, he was listed as their nickel back on the opening depth chart for 2023, which was really odd to me. But I digress. Now, the big one was tight end Lane Pryor. And I said to key on Lane Pryor because a lot of what Northern Iowa wanted to do came off of what he was going to do, right? They like to put him kind of off the line of scrimmage occasionally. They'll put him on the line. They'll put him off the line. Sometimes they'll try to disguise him and hide him. and really kind of sneak him out of the backfield. There was like almost like a kind of double wheel route they ran with him. It was our first touchdown of the season. He was their leading reception getter, tied for first in receptions on the team. And then we saw Sergio Moranci there in the game as well, get a couple catches. So Moranci ended up with 2 catches, Pasek Hickson with 3, Desmond Hudson with 3, Lane Pryor ended up with 2. So it was a lot of, Lane Pryor, where the offense goes where Lane Pryor goes, right? He is a team captain on that team. And like I said, was second in yards, tied for first in receptions. So the big thing was to shut him down. And once they shut him down, it was kind of one of the, I hate to see him get hurt late in the game, but it was one of those things where he is a leader of this team. And if you look at last year, they worked a lot off of their tight end as well. Just a well-balanced, very powerful offense. They like to get big and heavy sets, and it was an adjustment for the 3-3-5, seeing as how the 3-3-5 is a little bit of a smaller defense made for more of a spread them out style of offense. And it seemed like, that first drive was a little concerning with how, it went down with, them being in 12 personnel. We're going to see a lot of 12 personnel this season. So this defense really needs to figure out kind of how to deal with physicality, especially when you have the big sets. But it seemed like, towards the second half, Tony White got better with his fronts and his stunts. Would like to see the overall blitz rate. Again, it was no blitzes in week 1, pretty good amount in week 2. So I'd be curious to see what the numbers come out for week 3. But the defense, I'm not sure if the defense was just a little, I don't know, a little too sleepy in this game. I don't know. Like Matt Rule said, they had a great week of practice, but practice doesn't transition to the field. And we've been shell shocked by hearing about practices before. So again, Lane Pryor taking him out of the game was good. Let's go ahead and move over to the defensive side of the ball here for them. So Tucker Landenberg, that was one of the guys on defense I spotlighted. Ben Belkin was another one. Cannon Butler, Carter Hewitt. Those were the 4 that I spotlighted on defense. So overall, they had a decent game. But let's go over to Nebraska, though. Let's talk about our offense. Dylan Raiola, 17 for 23, 247, as I talked about earlier. Heinrich Harburg came in and kind of cleaned up duty. Led a little bit of a drive there. Emmett Johnson, I'm going to get into him in a second. Emmett's my guy. I don't know why he doesn't get more touches, but let's go through the rushing yards here. So looking through Nebraska's rushing yards, Dante Dowdle, 6 carries, 55 yards, 38-yard long. Emmett Johnson averaged, I believe, 12.4 a carry. So 4 carries, 50 yards, 1 touchdown with that long of 36. Just 22 carries, 142 yards for the team, 2 touchdowns. Now, again, coming down here, you saw 10 different guys catch a pass. We saw Harburg come in there late. Fedoni, well, in the Harburg possession, I feel like when Harburg was leaving the field, that's when he should have got off the field. I felt like it was a little too predictable once we had him on the field and it started to kind of get that feel-good moment with Harburg out there. I like using him in a couple plays and then kind of getting him off the field and changing things up a little bit. I think it was a little too predictable there at the end, and we could have scored a touchdown there at that one point. And a little too shaky with the red zone offense there in the second half. Jalen Lloyd, 1 reception for 59 yards. It seems to be, I saw a stat earlier where he's had only 1 catch, never had more than 1 catch in a game, but averages over 40 yards per catch, which is insanity. Carter Nelson, the leading reception getter. I don't think any of us would have guessed that coming into it. 48 yards, 1 touchdown. And it's great to see him get more involved in the offense. Of course, we didn't see him last week. He's got to get a little bit more of these reps under his belt in these type of games before they throw him out there and trust him in those big games. But we might see a little bit of him next week against Illinois. I'm pretty sure this was kind of a preparation for that. Emmett Johnson, 3 catches for 43 yards, 24-yard long. Again, I think we need to utilize Emmett more. Isaiah Nair, 2 receptions, 35 yards. Ja'Cory Barney, 3 for 29. And of course, Isaiah Nair drew that penalty as well. Banks, slow day, 1 for 13 yards. Fedoni, 2 for 13, but it's a couple big catches. Janiron Bonner, again, another struggle. Perimeter blocking seemed to still be an issue. Now, again, last week, I thought Jamal Banks did a better job than most of the rest of the guys, and he came out with the highest, run block grade according to PFF. And but a struggle today, a real bad struggle today. So they really have to get that perimeter blocking open, so that way, we can stretch the field left to right, which will open up the middle. We really need to open up the middle against, solid defenses, physical defenses like we're going to face against Illinois, Rutgers, etc. So, moving over into the defense, Gift 9 tackles, 4 solos, a TFL. Bullock 9, Deshaun Singleton 6, Stephon Thompson getting in there 6, and kind of playing in Bear's spot while he was out. Tommy Hill, Marcus Buford, Mekhi Bear, Mario Buford, Cam Linhart, like everybody kind of had a good day. Isaac Gifford was very, very clutch in that game. And how good has John Bullock been this season? John Bullock has been unbelievable, making plays, stepping up when he needs to. So I'm going to drop this StreamYard link in here. So here's what you can do. If you want to call into the show and or StreamYard in, whatever, click that link. It'll pull you into the background, and I will pull you in. You don't need video. Again, just audio if you want to share your thoughts on the game so far. 94 Penn State, 97 Michigan are the real champions. I'm not sure what that means. Go Big Red. Can't wait to watch the TV copy tomorrow. Exactly. I'm curious to see what occurs when I watch it back. It's always interesting when I watch it back how much we miss, and of course I'll be breaking that down. It's all right. Never mind me. As long as he's adding to the views, it's okay. It's a long season. I think they might be saving Emmett for downstretch. He is amazing. He's unbelievable. He's shifty. He reminds me of almost a combination, like of course, not as physical, not as big and physical as Dowdell, but he reminds me of a good balance of Ramir and Emmett. He's a good physical runner who can, make you miss with his agility, with his lateral movement, or he can put his head down and kind of put a shoulder into you. We see a lot of that last year, again, with a bad offense, averaged over 4 yards per carry last year. I would love to see a lot more of Emmett Johnson mixed into this. Okay, let's go into the team stats here. Now, the biggest thing that I saw last week from Northern Iowa, not very good on third down. 6 for 16 today, 4 for 7 for Nebraska. So they didn't get in a ton of third downs. 0 for 1 on fourth, 2 for 4, stopping it. 301 total yards. This is around par for you and I's average per passing play. I think they were around 4.9, something like that coming into the game. 139 yards rushing, which almost matched our 142. I think that was the biggest thing. 3.6 per rush. The 12 personnel, that's what was really giving us issues. And that's the only concerning thing, right? Albeit they're back, Ty Edwards again, 6'4", 230. But, for the most part, it's hard to be too upset about the defense. I think a lot of, that came early on in the game, especially the rushing yards. And what it appeared to be in that early drive is, that the defense was getting some pressures. The defense was getting into the backfield. The defense was causing some commotion, but it seemed like, they really had it was almost like they really had some quick hitting stuff, right? They had a good amount of outlets. When Aiden Dunn got the pocket rolling, they made sure he had, a guy on a flat. They made sure he had underneath a middle route and kind of a top route. And the strain that it was putting on the defense when he'd moved the pocket was a lot of those guys were having to decide whether they're going to step up and take the quarterback or back up and take the receiver or that underneath check down route. And that caused a lot of issues for them. Never mind me. I'm surprised Kalen didn't get in. I don't think necessarily they want to use him. I don't know if they want to use him just yet. Plus, that game wasn't far enough out of reach, in my opinion, to throw Kalen out there. I would like to see, he's got 4 games to play, so it doesn't count as a red shirt. So we'll see what they plan with that. But I wasn't too surprised about that. I was actually kind of hoping we would see him, but that would have required, of course, Nebraska to put the game away in, early. I didn't like that Raiola had to be in the 4th. That means we didn't put the game away too early enough. Google Chrome or Safari, don't know what to use Call enough to. So I'm on Chrome, but so I would try Chrome. I'm not too familiar with Safari because I'm not a Mac guy, so not too familiar with that. But let's go ahead and get into some of what I saw kind of on the field. I'll bring up my notes here that I was taking throughout the game. Okay, one of the things that I pointed out from Northern Iowa when watching their first couple games back. So they like to stay in those open shells, right? And open means there's just no single high safety over the top. They really like to stay in like those cover two type of looks, cover four quarters looks, but it's a open shell over the top. Again, meaning there's two safeties high, no single high safety. Now, Nebraska was picking that apart early in the game because when they were in cover two, again, even the touchdown over the middle or the long play over the middle, um, that was taking advantage of the slow linebackers and really kind of that not having that safety up the middle. So you saw a lot of the middle of the field being exposed by Nebraska early in this game. Their linebacker, it was a lot of trickery in terms of, testing their eyes, seeing if they keep their eyes on the ball, keep their eyes in the backfield. And it was a lot of motions and really trying to confuse the defense's eyes. They didn't really have the speed on defense to really hang with the offense. What they did was try to, schematically try to play well. And it just seemed like Nebraska, they got going a little bit, but it seemed like it would stall and they go and it would stall and they would go. You just want to see a little bit more consistency with the offense there. So Keona Davis, formerly Keona Wilhite, getting into the game early and looked good. When Keona Davis was in the game, he did look good. Like I said earlier, Stephon Thompson was starting at linebacker. I'm a big Stephon Thompson fan. I really like him. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets utilized more and more into this offense or into this defense. Sorry. Now, the first drive, let's talk about the first drive because the opponent's average for time of possession for the first 2 weeks was 23 minutes. And then Northern Iowa came out with that 10-minute opening drive, right? Scripted drive. They converted a few third downs. And again, I still feel like they had just a good plan in that first scripted drive of just making sure that they got their quarterback into a rhythm that he had, a high look, a middle look, and a low look. He had a check down. And again, he had the flexibility to use his leg when need be. And they played off of that pretty well in that first drive. I don't know why the defense started so slow. I don't think the defense had a horrible day. We're not happy with it, of course, but the defense did have a good day overall, in my opinion. But now I want to show you this play where Raiola kind of this play right here. And hopefully there's no copyright on this junk here, but I'm going to share screen with you on this and we're going to full screen this. All right. So let me turn the sound down. All right. So interesting here. Now, if you watch Raiola, he's going to look away. So there was a double linebacker over the middle, right? Two linebackers, one on each side. So he's going to look this linebacker away for this. This was the touchdown over the middle. So he's going to look the linebacker away. Now watch him turn his hips, right? 33 comes across. Now he keeps his hips kind of in that same direction, almost like he was throwing right. So watch here again, look right, hips right, keeps his hips where they are and kind of delivers a ball over the middle. And that is some of the nuanced stuff that he does very well, right? It's not just he's looking him away with his eyes. This is the third and 10 where they got the touchdown. Not just looking him away with his eyes. He's looking him away with his eyes. So he looks right, looks left, and watch his hips. His eyes will go middle, but his hips stay. So he's showing it with his eyes, but he's not showing it early with his hips. And that's really good for not telegraphing his throws. And the fact that he is able to sling kind of that arm slot, kind of off to the side, that 3/4 delivery, that's what really helps him. And you can tell he's been taught with that. You can tell he's been taught the phone method with that opposite shoulder to keep it closed. You really want to keep that hand high and tight so that way the ball don't sail on you. That's what Harburg had a lot of struggles with in his delivery last year, was letting that front shoulder fly open. That's why there was not a lot of accuracy or consistency, especially on the deep ball. So it's little stuff like this that make Raiola special. Hips go right, hips go left, eyes right over the middle of the field when he wants to make the throw, off platform throw, tight spiral, right on the money to Nair coming over the middle. Great anticipation, great read, and just the ability to look off that linebacker and to really kind of make sure that pass is completed on 3rd and 10. It's just nice to really be able to complete, a third and long, a third down in general, especially for a touchdown. So Sorry, I'm late. I had to see Georgia survive Kentucky. Oh, okay. So they did survive. Damn, that's unfortunate. But 13-12. And they had their fifth, I think it was their fifth guy get a driving violation. I don't know what they all are. DUI. This guy was reckless driving, I think, doing 100 some odd miles an hour. Went to the porch to enjoy a drink. Bad look for Georgia. All right. Now let me go back to a couple of the other throws, the other plays we had. I got some of these bookmarked here, so I'll pull up some of these plays for you. Let me go. Let's see, 10. And I'll pull these up for y'all as well. Again, if you want to click that link, let me know if you want to drop in here, and I will. I'll pull you into the chat. So let's go. All right, so here we go. Let's pull this one up here. Oh, that's Harburg's one. All right, here we go. This is the early one I was talking about from the field level. So let me share screen here. All right. I'm gonna pull this one up for you. So here's a little bit more of a field view. So you see they're blitzing, they're bringing 5, right? Bringing 5. Now watch this linebacker 33. He's going to cross over the middle. You're going to see him right here. Now he's the guy who's going to cross left to right. Now Raiola's eyes. Now watch Raiola's eyes, looking him over this way. His eyes are still looking him over. Nair starts his cut, and as soon as he kind of makes that cut across the field, Raiola's already in a position. Now watch that linebacker. He's still reading the eyes and hips, flips him at the last second, and neither one of these linebackers able to make the play, right? This is the problem when they were in this kind of open shell here, and they kind of had these linebackers with undisciplined eyes and a little bit slow around here in the second level. But they brought that one linebacker up. They brought 8 up, but 8 was going to also drop back into coverage there. He didn't decide to, and ended up pressing forward. But yeah, just a great play. You see Fidoni runs a little kind of out route here to draw that linebacker out, looks his eyes across, and Nair comes across, and just a great play delivery right up the middle and gets the touchdown. So, you know, there was a couple of things. Now let me go into the next touchdown. Bring that up. Another thing too that I brought up when I was going through Raiola's kind of game tape and what I saw against the Colorado game, he's very good at recognizing man coverage on the outside and when he has a mismatch, because he's great at throwing the ball up into kind of an area to where, again, he's either going to draw a PI, your receiver's going to go up and get it, or nobody's going to catch it, right? Now, the one over the middle of the field, that I think that was just a little bit of trying to stretch the field. I don't know if that was just one of those things where we're wanting to make a big play, but in terms of when it comes to just trusting his receivers and trusting his arm, we've seen it, you know, manifest in a couple of PIs and even a missed PI. So, you know, those are just as good as completed passes. Those are just as good as offense. So, all right, let me bring up another play right here for you. Okay. So this is the one where they brought, you'll see. All right. So this is what I was talking about with trying to confuse the eyes of the defense. So they're going to get Borkature coming across here, and you're going to have 2 guys crossing paths here, and Ramirez going outside. Okay, and you see Borkature with a little block there, gets around him so that way, and good job there by Borkature, so that way he can get out and lead block. Was a little bit late getting out in front, but you can see here most of the defense either went that direction or was blocked. There was really kind of one-on-one out here. Borkature comes across, and I think it was a really good job of Borkature here to kind of let off and not block in the back, because that was one of those where he was out of position to make the block. And you see him kind of push and just kind of, you know, push the shoulder. Luckily, he didn't push too hard in the back, didn't chase the block too much, and kind of lets Corey do his thing there. So a big time play there, and just a lot of the trickeration. This is kind of what Northern Iowa likes to do with kind of getting the motions and coming across and you know, confusing the eyes. But I really like, you know, this kind of offensive system. And now when Ja'Cory Barney and Jalen Lloyd are both going on the edges, and we can get a lot of stuff going like this, and just kind of really um, get it going more, right? Get it going more throughout the game, and that'll open up the big guys on the edges. It's just one of those things where Jalen Lloyd and we got a young receiving core outside of Nair and Banks, so just kind of getting them some repetitions, and really getting them the ball and getting them some action. But it's good to see just how good Ja'Cory Barney and Jalen Lloyd have been. But if we can get more of that rocking and rolling, then we'll be in good shape. Again, not too much to be mad about in terms of that. Now let me try to pull up. See if I can pull up any of the other ones here. All right. Pull this up. That was one over the middle. There's the Emmett Johnson run. Okay, I'm not sure what I did with the other ones. Okay, let's all right, cool. Let's go ahead and I'll look for that in a little bit, but let's go ahead and all right, let me get back into my observations from the game here. Pulling these back up. All right. So Kai Wallen, we saw him, Kai Wallen, I don't know how to pronounce it. Big play there, late in the game. Looked great in his opportunities again. So did Keona Davis. I like that we're getting some of these guys some meaningful playing time, valuable reps. And not only that, Keona Davis got some meaningful action when the game was, in the very beginning of the game. So it's not just garbage time, that type of deal, getting in the game and really making things happen. So you like to see the future of there from the position. And again, not having Mekhi Gaber in the first half really affected a little bit. But I mean, honestly, I'm not sure how much of a difference it would have made. Just seemed like the defense came out that first drive lethargic. They really put the pressure on him. But yeah, Kai Walling made a good play. Prince Will Umami Wellen, he was like, there's something about him, and great play by him on the way on that pass rush where he came in and got the quarterback. I don't think enough was said about just kind of his ability to, when he hit the quarterback, he kind of turned his head away and he made sure he didn't get that, roughing the passer, made contact with him still, didn't get hands to the face. None of that stuff was able. He's almost like surprised him when Amari Pasek-Hickson tried to come in for the block, and Pasek-Hickson was almost just like on his heels, just kind of gave in almost. And he surprisingly, I think he was surprised with how quick he made it to the quarterback, but a big play there. Not a lot of sacks or a lot of that, but a lot of disruption in the backfield that we saw from our guys. And then Hartzog getting his second pick. Now that one was a little bit of an overthrow, but the thing about it is they were talking about how he had Moranci open there. But if you watch it again, Moranci was about to take a huge hit. He wasn't as open as he looked, but sailed that ball, and then Hartzog getting his second pick, and that was to stop the Northern Iowa drive in the second half. And I think that was really a big momentum swing in this game. Northern Iowa comes out and scores that first drive in the second half. Then we're feeling really bad about things, but a great momentum swing there. And that is what we're kind of talking about with the difference in the defense this year versus last year. Last year, not a lot of turnovers were being forced. This year, we're starting to see that transition. 3-3-5 is a very difficult defense to navigate, especially in year one. Reason being, it's such a risk-reward style of defense, and you really don't have the ability to jump a route or, come into the backfield. You don't want to cross the line of scrimmage until the ball, or you don't want to cross over into the line of scrimmage until the ball's crossed the line of scrimmage if your assignment is, on the defensive side of the line of scrimmage. If you're in a zone or something like that, you also don't want to jump in front of a ball unless you can get both hands on it, ensure that, because, it's one of those things where you're going to be a lot of one-on-one situations. And with the risk reward comes that risk, right? If you jump it and it's not there. So maybe the defense seems to be feeling a lot more confident in their ability to force turnovers, and you see them a lot ripping at the ball. Now, let's talk about the defensive issues that I did see. Now, in terms of tackling, pursuit angles, those were really bad all game. The defense is in a position where they seem fired up to go make a big hit, make a big play, and I get it. And hopefully, it was a symptom of this game, maybe them feeling a little bit confident going out against Northern Iowa, thinking, I can make this hit. I don't have to wrap up because the tackling overall has been a lot better in the first 2 weeks than it was today. Now, the speed on the defense is what should have ruled the day for us. And again, the fact that we're taking bad pursuit angles and tackling poorly against a team like Northern Iowa, that's not a positive thing. I know Tony White. The good thing is we have Tony White, right? Tony White is going to make adjustments. He's going to be an excellent, he's gonna coach the guys up this week, right? We saw the transition from the first to the second half. But still just bad tackling all around. And it's uncharacteristic of this defense. That's why I'm not trying to get too hard on them, because it's a very uncharacteristic game, right? It happens. It was Northern Iowa. You'd rather have this game and have those issues now against Northern Iowa than them come up against Illinois next week. Now what happens is you have the mistakes on film, and now you correct them and move forward. Now, if these carry over into the Illinois week, then we have more of a gripe. But I trust Tony White to kind of really hammer in on these details. Matt Rule, I know he's happy about the win, but he's going to get on these guys for, he has this expectation of excellence, right? And when they're not living up to that, he's going to get after them. And I think we're kind of holding that same standard for them that Matt Rule's holding for them, of this excellent standard. And it showed there's a couple lapses. Now, we had 4 penalties total, only 4 penalties for, I believe, 40 something yards. So if I go back here, so 4 penalties for 44 yards. That roughing the punter was probably the most egregious, of course, but overall, the not bad in terms of penalties, but it seemed, again, just like the timing of them, right? And made them feel worse than they actually were. 9 for 95 penalty wise for Northern Iowa. So turnovers 1-1. So didn't win the turnover battle today. And one of the 5 takeaways that I had that we could get out of this game is, or I had a few takeaways. I don't know if there's exactly 5, but one of them was, win the turnover battle by 2 or more. And that's what I wanted to do coming out of this game. I also wanted to control the time possession, which we did not do. So, a couple things missed there, but, I wanted to see some improvements by the offensive line. Again, there were some moments the offensive line had. Michael Mazuka was not out there. Again, before the game, what I saw was what I was seeing and hearing was potentially a spat with Donovan Raiola at the end of the Colorado game. Not sure, because I know Mazuka came out for the last 10, 11 snaps of that game, but they didn't allude to anything after. So maybe that was an in-house type of deal where they're not going to talk on that too much. I'm sure they'll be asked about it and we'll see a confirmation for sure. But that was what I had read. So we'll see about that going forward. But let me get in some of your comments. Heartbroken for the Wildcats. Oh yeah, for Kentucky. Not looking like the dominant team they were. Our lads got a lot to clean up this week. Illinois' primary concern, Purdue looking like trash. Purdue is the worst team in the Big Ten. Ryan Walters not succeeding, and you love to see it. Albeit Purdue did have like a top 30 recruiting class last year, surprisingly, but Purdue's just not good. As we saw last year, that was one of the teams we handled easy. So I had to look up after exchanges. Oh, I got you. A station on at the mid-90s last year. Thank you for your service, by the way, for anybody who served out there. I was in the Navy for 5 years, Master at Arms. So here for the free Wimmer's Wiener celebration sandwiches. Fongway, I have no idea what that even means. What is a Wimmer's Wiener celebration? Should I ask that question? Actually, I should feel like that could be clipped into something. Y'all don't clip that. All right. Again, if you want to, let me drop this in here. I'll look a little bit forward to Illinois after this, but I'm going to drop this StreamYard link in here if y'all want to talk about the game as it happened. Now let's look a little bit at what Illinois did today and what they have done this season. So let me pull up Illinois' game here, and I will have Sonny Verma from the Illini cast and from Locked On Illinois coming on to break down the game this week. So y'all be, stay tuned for that big time game this week. But Illinois came out, won 30-9. Now in the first half, looking at the score, it wasn't, it was 13-6, and the Illinois played the opposite type of game as Nebraska, right? Had a better second half, 30-9. But looking through here, first downs 19-20, 5 for 13 on third down, 4 for 11 on third down for Illinois. So they're not very good at getting off the field, or you're staying on the field on third down. So 1 for 1 on fourth down. You see here they allowed 309 total yards to Central Michigan, 379 yards total, 242 passing, 19 for 29, 8.3 per pass, 137 on the ground, 10 penalties for 81 yards. So that's a big thing that stands out. They're going to, again, if we remember the Illinois game from last year, and I have a lot of film. I have the all 22s from every game last year. So I'll go through and I'll break down Illinois' film from last season so I can give you an indication of what kind of we can look forward to next week. Central Michigan threw an interception. So let's see, 6 penalties from the 29 for 30 for 50, 57 in terms of the time of possession. Now, here was Nebraska's time of possession. Let me slide it over to this one. 38 minutes, 21 minutes. So right there, this is going to be, and this is one of the things when I said I didn't think Nebraska would originally score when people were saying in the 50s and stuff like that. I thought this game would slow down just with the style Northern Iowa plays, right? 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, right? They like to get big, they like to get heavy. They have some big physical linemen. They also hold a lot, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, time possession again, early on in the game, the announcers were talking about it. Didn't seem like Nebraska was too worried about time possession. I wish in the second half they would have controlled it a little bit more. But it is what it is. We'll see what comes about in the next 2 games. Again, the big game against Colorado, they control the clock pretty well. Week 1, they control the ball or control the clock the best they have all season. So 423 yards, 4 for 7 on ours, held them to 6 for 16. And then coming across again, looking at Illinois, they're struggling on third down, 4 of 11 there. Now looking at their player stats, let's go ahead and go through the statistics here for the season. Now Luke Altmaier, 405 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So let's go ahead into Altmaier here. 405, 4 touchdowns, 71.4% completion percentage on the year, 167 quarterback rating. So they're a team that, they're not super efficient on offense, right? 4.3 yards per carry. Let's see, but this is the guy we need to look out for right here. All right, Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant had a excellent game today. 7 receptions, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 31-yard long. So most of his production of the season coming today, but that might be a sign for next week. 16.6 average per season. So keep an eye on Pat Bryant, number 13 next week. And let's go ahead and slide back. Now, Zaire Franklin. Now, Zachary Franklin. This is the big guy that is kind of rules the day for them. From Cedar Hill, Texas, 6'1", 190, 11 receptions, 127 yards, 11.5 per catch. 5 for 66 today, 13.2. So they like to target him early and often. 11 receptions, 127 on the season. And you see here, he's been playing since 2019. So he's a big part of their team, a leader on that team. So a couple of guys that we need to look out for on the side. You got to think that Tommy Hill will be shadowing Zachary Franklin in that game. Tommy Hill, by the way, doing a great job of getting into people's heads, it seems. We had another penalty drawn today. So that was nice to see. Now moving down here to the kicking game. So 4 for 4 for their kicker, 2 for 2 from 20 to 29, 1 for 1 from 40 to 49, and 50 plus 1 for 1. Okay, so Nebraska really needs. It was nice to see Alvano get a couple kicks to go through. Again, would like to see one go through from a little bit further away, but he's making them nonetheless. We're going to need him in these type of games, these Illinois games, the Rutgers games. Those are the type of games where we're going to need him to really be able to get points. Because when drives stall on that side of the field, we need to be able to finish. Okay, so go Navy. Yes, sir. see. Go to all, go big red. Too many ads. I'm sorry. I don't control the ads. That's YouTube. YouTube does that on their own. So I apologize for that. That's not my doing. I have no say over the ads there. So I apologize if they're too much. That is not, I have no control over that. So um, now moving on to the defensive side of the ball for Illinois. So we got Briggs here. Dennis Briggs, 6'4", 275, senior. Again, a lot of experience. He's been playing since 2018. A lot of experience here. And that's one of the things that's making Nebraska really good right now is their experience. Now, Bielema has physical teams, right? And a physical team with experience. I think this is Illinois' best shot. Illinois' best shot at this is, is to really wear Nebraska down and rely on these veterans here to be able to kind of. And what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to put pressure on Raiola. They're going to have to put pressure on Dylan and really kind of make his life hell, right? One of the things that I talked about with Illinois and Rutgers that I think they're going to be able to do is potentially get in there, disrupt his timing, disrupt his rhythm, maybe lay a few hits on him. Now, I think that is going to be what I want to see Dylan Raiola push through, right? I want to see Dylan Raiola. I don't want to see him take some hits, right? But if he does, I want to see how, as the game wears on, if he starts, if he takes a few hits as the game goes on, takes some shots, how does he wear those hits? Does it affect his confidence at all? And does he, does he stay as efficient as he was? Does he, because one of the things I noticed even in this week, right, is if you watch him in the pocket, there was that one play where the pocket kind of collapsed, right? You had one from here, but watch his feet. Glenn Thomas alluded to this earlier in the season where he said, calm feet equal a calm mind at the quarterback position. And that's exactly what we saw in that situation. His feet never get jumpy, right? His feet never get choppy. Even when the pocket's collapsing, he stands in the pocket, he keeps his feet set, and that's why he's able to deliver the accurate balls he does. Now, when he takes a couple shots, if he gets hit a couple times by some of these bigger physical Big Ten defensive linemen, how does he respond to that? And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that I want to see from this. So, Jason, I ain't seen an ad yet. Yeah, it's drastically different, right? Some people, like YouTube will put ads in, and some people will see some, but not everybody will see it, and then the other half will see the others throughout the video. So, yeah, flying in next week for the 400th sellout. Well, you have a great time out there, Tony. The crowd was into the game from start to finish again today, so it's good to see that. They're going to be fired up next week for that 400th sellout. So, have fun out there, Tony. Again, I was at the Colorado game, and that was electric in and of itself, as we expected. So. Now let's go ahead and look through Illinois, kind of what they've done this year in their terms of their schedule. I was looking through this earlier, looking through a few of their stats. So they came out 45-0 against Eastern Illinois. Now, number 19, Kansas. They were number 19 at the time. Now, we looked at Kansas, and they had a rough game against UNLV yesterday, right? So originally coming off of that win to Kansas, Illinois kind of climbed in. I think they were 26th. I think they were the first team out of the rankings. So very possible that they might climb into the rankings this week, and we could have a ranked on ranked matchup, but then come out against Central Michigan 30-9. Again, not a crazy impressive performance again. So if you look at their scoring situation, they had a touchdown, a field goal, and I think another late touchdown in this game. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Central Michigan's roster here. Let me just go to the box score. All right, so looking through it, you see here they had a 10-3, 6-10, 6-13 right as the second half expired. They got a field goal. Third quarter, they came out, got a touchdown, then a field goal, and then a late touchdown to make it 30-9. So again, I feel like Illinois has a lot of the same gripes that Nebraska does, but even a few more. Again, they were a little bit less cleaned up in terms of the penalties, but and I think Illinois is just, again, looking back at that last game, that was a very sloppy game. It was almost as if neither team wanted to win that game, and I think we ended up winning 21-7 or something like that. Again, I'll go through the film on that and break it down. As long as It's a new one. Yeah, y'all get y'all's thoughts in here again if you want to pop in here. Click that link. Don't be scared. You don't need video, just audio. So if you want to come chop it up, let me know. All right, let's get back a little bit over into the game today. Let me pull that back up for you. All right. Coming back through a few of my takeaways here. Okay. Again, the Harburg situation. I like that we got Harburg in the game. I don't like using him 3 plays in a row. I think Harburg will be good to rotate in as a play here and there. I like, the way they changed it up on the second play. But then when he was going to leave the field, I almost feel like that was a feel good moment, right? They wanted to leave him out there, maybe try to give him a shot at getting the touchdown. And then that led to a field goal. I don't think in that game, that's what we want in that situation. I don't necessarily think we're in a good enough position. I know a lot of us wanted to finish those drives, and we really need to rehearse finishing drives, right? We can't get complacent with that because, again, our field goal kicking has not proven itself. And it was good to see a couple go through the uprights. Again, I don't know why early in the game we went for it on that 4th and short and maybe should have kicked it. Then to get another, to get one through early, but I'm glad we got a couple late, but it came at the expense of finishing a touchdown drive. And if we remember in the early part or preseason, after they had the spring scrimmage, one of the issues with finishing drives was penalties and execution. And, in this one today, I think it was a little bit of just over conservativeness on the coaching. Yeah, I don't like the way they handled that, but I do like that they got Harburg rotated in there. I heard last week that they were rotating in Harburg at running back. So I knew it was coming. I thought it might come last week, but we didn't get to see him in there, but we finally got him this year. So, and again, the tackling 12 personnel, bad pursuit angles. We're going to see a lot of 12 personnel. We're probably going to see it against Illinois. They're probably going to want to get big as well and try to take advantage of that. They're going to want to wear down this defense and assert their physicality. And Nebraska's going to assert their physicality as well. So, but that's where Nebraska's tackling needs to be on point, right? Because Illinois does have athletes. Bielema has talent on that team. They have athletes, and they will beat you if you let them. So you got to make sure you bring those guys down, and you got to make sure there's no lapses defensively. They got to be on their game the entirety of the game. So now let's see here. Another thing I wanted to point out. Let's recap this real quick too. I wanted to kind of go over these drives here because I haven't even had a chance to look over them. All right. So first drive, we came out 7 plays, touchdown, second touchdown. Now this was the turnover on downs where I thought maybe we should kick the field goal, but again, glad we got a couple late, but I think we should have just kicked the field goal there. The end of the half, interception there, field goal, interception, touchdown, end of game, right? So I saw somewhere that this was Satterfield's most efficient game in terms of amount of scoring drives. So that is one good thing. I talk about finishing with a touchdown, but the good news is in the limited amount of drives, they were at least finishing with points. The one interception there on that deep pass backed up on our own territory. But in terms of getting down the field, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 drives out of 8. And this one right here could have been a field goal as well. So 7 out of 8 drives. So efficiency, not the issue. Satterfield seems to be in terms of that regard. But to me, it's the play calling in the second half. Now, we had an instance where there was a lot of laundry in the second half that kind of broke the rhythm as well. But it seems like the offense has this specific way. And I think the way they run the offense in the first half is just how they have to run it in the second half. If we get overly conservative in the second half, we've seen that, there's not enough, especially against you and I, who really wants to bring guys down and kind of stack the box. That is going to be what we see a lot versus Illinois as well. So we're going to have to mix up the play calling throughout the game. And Satterfield needs to, I think he needed to practice, again, rehearse this, stop getting conservative in the second half. We wanted to see the change from Colorado where we kind of got conservative in the second half as well. But again, that's some nitpicky stuff, but hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us. Another thing that I want to point out about Tommy Hill Now, watching Tommy Hill today, we know how good he is with his coverage, right? I think coming into the game, he was the one of the top 8 in terms of his PFF coverage grade in terms of cornerbacks. Now, what we've been seeing, which is going to be important in the Illinois game, what we've been seeing from him is we heard about the extra 15 to 20 pounds that he had put on this offseason. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot more confidence in him coming down and stopping the run. We saw him come off the cornerback blitz on the edge, but we also seen him drop down in a few plays and kind of make a stop on the run. So, Tommy Hill, that extra weight is really allowing him to be a lot more versatile in defense. And I think that's one element that is going to help Nebraska this year against Illinois. I think he was sitting at what, a buck 85 last year, Tommy Hill, and he's up to 205, I think, right now, and looking solid, but he hasn't lost his speed, hasn't lost his agility naturally, and his ball skills are still excellent. So that's one of the things that I think we need to point out about Tommy Hill is not only his coverage, but just how good he's been in terms of his run stopping since he's put that on as well. Got to go all go big red. Got to love 3-0. Been a while. Yeah, appreciate it, LPH. Thanks for all your support, man. Thanks for stopping by. Ad block or unblock Origin flying in next week for 400th. Let's see. You don't want to get banned. Let's see. Oh, okay. I see what the conversation about. No worries. Never mind. No hate. Horrible stuff we've done if we're born. I enjoy reading through all your comments to see what it says. I should probably like read through these before I pull them up on screen. If y'all get me in trouble here. Laundry scene's a level heavy this year, not so much in the deep defensive backfield, not even that great about policing the line, but ticky-tacky heavy, I guess. I think it's more so just the scatter, it seems like they come in bunches when they do come. I think that's the one thing about the penalties that makes them feel worse is I feel like they come in bunches, right? It seems like flag after flag, play stop after play stop. And the next thing you know, 7 minutes are off the clock and you haven't scored, right? And so that's going to be one of those things where, again, four penalties, so it's hard. They had 9 penalties on the other side, but it's one of those things that's been a thorn in their side throughout the season, and probably wanted to be a little bit cleaner this game. I wanted to clean up the penalties a little bit this game, win the turnover margin. But again, the offensive line looked good. Perimeter blocking still leaves a lot to be desired, and I think that's going to be a big thing for us is trying to really get on those edges. Not only with because we can get Ja'Cory Barney out there, we can get Jalen Lloyd out there, and when we get them on the outside and on the edges, that's going to open up that middle of the field. And that's what's really going to cause Nebraska to be able to run down the throat of Big Ten teams, right? They got to get that perimeter blocking a little bit better, because otherwise they're going to be able to just key on those edges. They're not going to have to bring extra guys onto those edges. They can just trust that their defensive backs are going to be able to get off the wide receivers' blocks. And you saw, a near penalty there with Banks getting, out a little too early on the receiver. That's a tough spot to be in because he got into the chest of the receiver a little early. He's not looking back at that play, right? So that one's a tough one. That one's just a timing thing. That one's a tough one. So, I'm not too hard on him about that one. And turns out the ball was behind the line of scrimmage anyway, so it didn't come back to haunt us. But it's just when they do block, how easily they got thrown off. I saw Isaiah Nair lay a couple blocks when he was crashing down in the middle, but when he's one-on-one on the outside, when they're one-on-one on the outside, they really need to free up those guys because Jalen Lloyd and Ja'Cory Barney are good at making people miss. But, if they don't have to slow down and stutter step at that line of scrimmage and they could just kind of, it's almost similar to what the jet sweeps looked like with Xavier Betts, right? You saw Xavier Betts, and one of the things that, jet sweeps are the only thing he scored on, but one of the things that Xavier Betts that made him so good with those is he would come around the edges and he would just launch upfield, right? He would just be shot out of a cannon upfield. And if we get Ja'Cory Barney and Jalen Lloyd numbers out there and really kind of be able to just kind of get them to launch out of a cannon, be able to get upfield and make guys miss in the second and third level, as opposed to trying to make guys miss at the line of scrimmage, that'll help them tremendously going forward. Ramir Johnson, he had a great block on that long pass. The one where I think where he came back to the ball, right? Ramir Johnson got downfield, laid a great block on that play. So Ramir Johnson, I can see why Ramir Johnson's getting a lot more playing time on the field. You can see his experience showing up and just the way he's playing a complete game. And this is why Ramir Johnson's get a lot of time on the field is because he played much more of a complete game today. And, he's shifty, he's good, but his leadership, I think it's mainly his leadership. And I think it's his ability to be able to, do the little things well. And that's what he's done so far this season. I've mentioned it before, but again, I saw good handoffs from our tackles to a running back and then back again. It ain't ideal, but at least we can compensate, and hats off to these backs for blocking too. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest thing is we got the running backs, doing a little bit of their job in blocking. Got to get everybody consistently on board with the blocking. But again, hard to be too upset. We're nitpicky at certain things, but these are things we knew to be issues coming into the season or coming into this game. There were issues last week. This was the game, though, that I thought the perimeter blocking should be at its best, naturally, because we're going against a less athletic defense. Not any knock on Northern Iowa's defense, but they're a less athletic defense nonetheless. So, we got some bigger, physical, stronger receivers that are going to be meeting us at the point of attack on the edges, and they're going to really have to figure that blocking out on the edges because otherwise, you don't want this team to be a one-dimensional kind of system in terms of because those gadget plays and those not necessarily gadget plays, but those motions and getting those guys across, that's one of the things that really strained Colorado. Colorado stays on a lot of man coverage, right? And what they would do is they would get these guys running across the line of scrimmage, bring a wheel route out of the backfield, and they just couldn't get up to speed and keep with it, right? They have to run all the way across, run through. So it's good at taking advantage of teams that play a lot of man too, because if they don't switch that off, they're not going to have a guy that's going to be able to get out there with enough speed to get out and get that. So the way to set that up is you have to be able to get those guys handoffs on those motions and then then you can start going towards the kind of wheel route pass situations. A lot of things are going to play off of that. And that's where the perimeter blocking comes into play. And that's why it was emphasized so much by Matt Rule last week, because they really want to get those guys on the edges, open up that middle so they can pound Dowdle in there. And again, Satterfield's offenses, it's a power run scheme, right? It's short intermediate pass plus the power run to set up the deep ball. And so right now, a little bit of that intermediate, that element that they want, a little bit of it, it's there, but a little bit of that intermediate and kind of crossing up the eyes that they want to utilize that I think will take this team to the next level is really based on that. So we'll hear more about that this week as we come out of the practice and the press conference. I didn't get to watch too intensely. How did Latovsky hold up? Losing Mazuka was a late week gut punch. Overall, I didn't watch. And when I get to go back and watch the game, rewatch the game, I'll be able to focus on this a little bit more. But I didn't see Latovsky. I didn't notice him get beat a bunch, which is a good sign. So if he didn't stand out to me, he didn't get beat a bunch. Again, I'll go back and watch the film because I'm trying to watch a lot of things out there. But when I watch the game back, I'll be able to see just kind of what the offensive line looked like. But overall, it seemed like protection was good. There were a few instances where, there was kind of an Olay moment where the defense would kind of get, sideways and they were able to, but they have a solid defensive line. I was looking through before I did the video last week, prepping for the Northern Iowa game, and they got some big guys on that defensive line, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". They have some big guys over there. Not a lot of them over 300, but a few of them are. And that's a team built in the trenches, right? So, but that's a team we should be able to block, should be able to handle. Illinois, for what they are, they usually have really solid physical defensive lines. So that's going to be a key part of this game, is making sure that our blockers are, ready to go and ready to face what will be a power front, right? And that's going to be the biggest thing. And that's why I think Northern Iowa was a great setup to Illinois, because they're power, right? They're going to get big. They're going to get physical. They want to beat you in the trenches. They want to control time of possession. And again, number 45, the biggest thing was to watch him, key on him. And Nebraska kept him at bay. They didn't let him get out of the backfield and really get out on those routes. And when he did, they were able to shut it down. I think he had a catch there. But overall, Nebraska did their job in shutting him down. Good watching on the film of that. Nebraska watched film clearly on their defense, again, attacking the middle of the field when they had those open shells, no single high safety. So, if teams sit in cover two, teams sit in zone, they're going to get exploited. If teams sit in man, they're going to be exploited. I said coming in this week, Northern Iowa would have to do a combination of the two. But Dylan Raiola is very good at recognizing coverages. And that's one thing I've noticed, that he's good at recognizing the rotations of these shells. He's also good at knowing the zones of what they're going to do. Again, the way he looked away that linebacker and didn't, change his hips to throw that kind of slight arm angle to the side to get that touchdown to Nair over the middle. That was kind of what I'm talking about with getting that middle route. And it's all about just mixing up the linebackers and making sure the linebackers, if the linebackers lose where they are on the field or they lose their responsibility, then that middle of the field is going to be wide open if they don't rotate a cornerback over in cover three. So, all right. What do you think? What do you think is going to be Nebraska's game plan for Illinois? So I think our game plan from Illinois should be to wear them down. And I think this is one of those games where we really exert a Big Ten style of football here. And I think needs to be a Satterfield. This needs to be a Satterfield offense that kind of I'm talking about, where he uses the short intermediate pass game to really kind of open up the run. And I think we're going to utilize a lot of what we saw today, where we're getting, Lloyd Barney on the edges, a lot of motions and stuff like that, because you can't sit there and just run into the heart of their defense. You're going to want to stretch those guys out to the side, open up that middle. And I think that's going to be the recipe for success, and let Dylan Raiola work off of that. Those things are going to open up the middle of the field for him. Those things are going to open up the receivers. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just, keep getting big, keep getting physical. We like to run a lot of traps, and the traps are working. Northern Iowa runs a lot of the same traps that we run too. They run them, that touchdown we had week one, Dowdle, where Fedoni came across and set that, kind of got that trap block on the inside, which really sprung Dowdle free. Northern Iowa does a lot of that as well. And I think we're going to need to do a lot of that, a lot of stuff to the outside to really get Illinois to bite on that stuff, because we like to run Dowdle up the middle. We like to run, the ball up the middle, but it's going to be much harder running into a stout defense like that. So I think it'll be a good game to really kind of see where we're at in terms of before we get to Rutgers, because I think Rutgers is our biggest test in the first 7 games. I know Indiana looks good, but Indiana, Kirk Cignetti brought in about 14 players from James and Madison. So coming into the season, I said Indiana's a team that has crazy upside, or they could be the worst team in the Big Ten. And I know they've looked good, but I don't know if they necessarily have the physicality to be able to handle Nebraska. So the teams that I think are going to give us the biggest issues are the physical teams: Rutgers, Illinois, and then, of course, Ohio State has athletes for days, and they're physical, right? Indiana, I think, will be a little bit easier. Now, take that for what you will. We'll see more as the season goes along, but I think that'll be the game plan. And I think with Tony White's defense, we saw today that it's susceptible to 12 personnel, running against 12, 13 personnel. That is part of what makes the 3-3-5 a little bit, that's why everybody doesn't run it, right? Because you have to be very structured with your fronts. You have to watch film. You have to game plan, because you need to supplement that lack of an extra defensive lineman by your stunts, right? And you have a little bit less size because you're sacrificing that size for a little extra speed, right? For that spread offense. And that's what the 3-3-5 is there to counter. So yeah, watch the film from today. And I think Tony White's going to have a good film. I think he made adjustments in the second half, but from there, they're going to have to get really good with their fronts. And what our defense does very well, and what Tony White does very well with the defense that you saw in the second half, is, he does a good job of bringing guys in. But not only that, you saw Northern Iowa on that play I showed earlier, where he kind of crashed down on the inside of the line of scrimmage, or that number 8, he was coming in on the line of scrimmage almost like he wanted to try to make a play on the quarterback, but he backed out. But he even backed out late. And I think what our defense has good awareness about is knowing, how to sell the fake and how to sell the front, but how to get back into their assignments. And I think that's what's going to be the key for this, is to make sure that we are showing a ton of different fronts, right? Not necessarily blitzing a ton, but just showing a lot of different looks, confusing Luke Altmaier, because Luke Altmaier is not the best quarterback. He can make mistakes. He's good, but he's not great, right? He's not as good as Dylan Raiola. And causing confusion with him, I think is going to be very, very important. And I think Tony White is going to have a great defense schemed up for that. I don't think we'll see a lot of what we saw in terms of tackling and pursuit angles transitioning over into this week. I think we're going to see a little bit of a cleaner game. That's just me, because one of the things, again, that's good about having some of these issues show up on film, when you have a great coaching staff, what do? They go in, they watch the film, they fix it. You look at Oregon weeks 1 and 2, right? Oregon's O-line was horrendous weeks 1 and 2. Dylan Gabriel basically put the team on his back. Now they come out in this game and against Oregon State, and they had a dang good game, right? The offensive line played good. They gave Dylan Gabriel time. I think we're a little shell-shocked because what we saw from previous tenures is when mistakes showed up, they continued, right? But that was because we didn't have coaching. Now let's see just how they transition. I think a lot of what we've seen in weeks 1 and 2, right? It's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag of what was good and what was bad. Week 3, a little bit of a mixed bag, what was good, what was bad. But I trust this staff. And I think that's the biggest reason I'm not making a big deal out of a lot of this stuff. It was a 34-3 win, right? But I trust this staff to be able to go in there and make the adjustments. I trust these players because they're all very coachable. As we've seen, they're coachable players, and they take this stuff personal. When they make a mistake, they take it personal. So I trust this defense to come out and put on a good performance against Illinois. I think our defense is going to look better against Illinois than they did today. So I'm going to get into some of your comments here. Northern Iowa gives the boys a great look. Clean up before Illinois. I'm tired. Bert's stealing our lunch money. Happy, great team to get experience against. Our team is only getting better. 100% agreed. Acquired and dismantled. Wimmers is still in West Point. Still in Fairbury. Are we still talking about hot dogs? Brett looks like he's been arrested. I guess I'm not up to date on the hot dogs. I need somebody to get me in on the hot dog situation here. Brett looks like he's been wrestling every 5th grade lunch away from that. That's true. Oh yeah, for real Tay Street, wash down that Wimmers weenie sandwich. Phone way. Can you stop saying the weenie? It just throws me off. It's off-putting. I don't know why. Too good fun. Hey, Roge here. Go Big Red. Justin, appreciate you hopping in here. And again, before I head off, if anybody wants to get in here at the last second, go ahead and pop in here really quick. If y'all want to drop your comments, let me know. Drop your score predictions. All right, let's get a little fun here at the end. Drop your score predictions for next week. And I want to see if we can have anybody nail the score prediction. I don't think anybody did for the Colorado game, so let's see. I just want a few score predictions here before we conclude this. And let's see. Nebraska's own hot dogs are the big pink wieners from Wimmers of Fairbury brand. Yeah, I think I don't. You know what's funny too? Listen, maybe this is a product of me not ever getting hot dogs at the stadium. But the first thing I asked whenever the hot dogs came out were why, and I know this is very anti-Nebraska of me. I was like, why are these hot dogs pink? And believe it or not, my wife, it was only her second game. She's the one who was like, oh yeah. Here's why. Now, so I'm out of the hot dog loop. So don't disown me for being out of the hot dog loop. I usually am a Valentino's guy. I'm not a Runza guy. I know that's anti-Nebraska as it gets. I don't like cabbage. All right. Bear with me. I don't like cabbage. So if y'all can get me a Runza without cabbage, then I'm there for it. But Valentino's, I used to get Valentino's sent to me frozen from Nebraska. So I'm a big Valentino's guy. I know it's got a very mixed reputation, but I love Valentino's. So I had my first hot dog at the stadium against Colorado. Very good. Very good. I will say. All right. So yeah, if you want to drop your score predictions, go ahead and drop them after this goes live. It'll go live immediately after we conclude this. I'll get a lot of y'all. I'll get some more of y'all in here to kind of talk about things. I think once we get the ball rolling and get some people in here, kind of in the StreamYard and talking and chatting, then more people will hop in. So we just got to get the first person in here to come in and talk about it. So, but yeah, if you don't mind dropping a like, comment on the stream whenever we're done, whenever this goes live. I appreciate everybody who tuned in to the post game, and I will see y'all on the next video. But again, Tuesday at 4 p.m. 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Arizona time, which is my time, 6 p.m. Central. I'm going to have Sonny Verma from the Illini Cast and Locked on Illinois. He's also my co-host on the Big Ten Show. So he's going to be on, and we're going to be breaking down the Illinois game. So I'll have a lot of inside perspective from him. He has the biggest individual Illinois channel on YouTube. And like I said, he just took over Locked on Illini, or started Locked on Illini a few months ago. So I'll have him on to break down Illinois. So it should be a good breakdown, should be a good show. If y'all want to stop by in that show, oh, here we go. Nebraska. Oh, never mind. That was the same comment. Sorry. But yeah, if you want to stop by, then leave your comments. Let me know, what your thoughts are on the game. Bring your questions. Again, I'll drop the StreamYard link in the chat if y'all want to call in, so y'all can ask questions as well. So y'all tune in for Tuesday's live stream. I'll also have a recap once I watch this game back. I'll have a recap on some of the things that I saw that didn't stand out to me upon first watching it live. So, and Jason, we won't hate on you for not being a dog guy. We know what goes into those things. We just don't mind. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just like, I just feel like when in Rome, I got to get Valentino's. I'm a sucker for Valentino's. I don't know why. I've been out there every year for a game since I was basically born, and it was just like Valentino's every time. Valentino's. And I think it was sold on me. So can't even begin to think about a prediction. I think that's where a lot of us are at. I do see this being probably in Nebraska coming into next week, maybe a 6.5 point favorite. I was talking to somebody earlier. I think -6.5, -5.5, maybe about where it opens, -6.5 probably. I just think the game will be shortened. Like I thought today, I thought the game would be shortened as well. And it was, because, Northern Iowa came out with that first opening drive. I think Illinois is going to want to do what they can to keep Raiola off the field and kind of wear Nebraska down and see if they can take advantage of that second half. So that's probably going to be their game plan, but we'll get more of a inside look at that when we have Sonny on next week. So y'all tune in for that. Again, stay tuned for my breakdown of the game after I go back and watch it. And yeah, with that being said, I will see y'all in the next video, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks.